Moving on to the pool, of course, I'm going to write up some detailed instructions and suggestions on pool care and maintenance, but I think hopefully the video comes in handy, because it's one thing to write this out, it's another, I think, seeing is believing, and hopefully it'll make things clearer for me to show you what I'm actually talking about in the video. As I'll tell you in my instructions, the pool needs to be serviced once a week, and by serviced I mean at minimum have somebody come out and do the chemicals, check the chemical composition of the pool, add chlorine as necessary, and that's pretty much all that they do. I don't remember the cost of that service. It's something around $40 a month, but we'll provide that information to you as well as a service provider that we've been using, and they've been very reliable. So you have to have somebody do the chemicals. You can do that yourself, but I don't want to keep the chemicals here, and I don't want that responsibility, so I outsource that one. And maybe this is a good segue to another topic. The pool, I left the fill valve on inadvertently, just partially open. It's the first time I've ever done that. I did that yesterday, and as you can see, the pool is near overflowing. But the ideal location for the water line, if you can see the blue tile, it's kind of hard to see with the water so high, but there's a midpoint, a white line that divides the midpoint of the blue tile. That's where you want to keep the water, somewhere around there. It could go above an inch or two, it could go below by an inch, but the problem is if you let it go much more than an inch below that white line, then you're in danger of running the pump dry, and that wouldn't be a good thing. You'd probably have to repair or replace the pump. So this is one thing, this is sort of a pain, but if you're going to have the pool, you need to monitor the water levels and keep it up somewhere near that midline on the blue tile. By the way, one way to minimize evaporation and of course to keep the pool nice and warm is to use the blue pool covers, or I don't recall if we're leaving them, but whether we leave them or whether you buy pool covers, so I think we're taking those with us. But first of all, I would recommend that you get these, go to Leslie Pool Supply, and if you're going to have a pool cover, get these discs. I think we have 12 discs. They're made of the same material as a typical solar blanket, but they're much, much easier to handle, particularly for one person. It's all but impossible for one person to take a solar blanket up and down on this pool. It's just not any fun. But these rings are very easy to deal with, and they prevent, if you have all 12 rings in here, you have virtually no evaporation. So you're not filling up with water all the time, and you're preserving the heat that the solar panels are providing. And these things, if you did nothing other than have those solar rings on the pool, I think you'd get at least 5, maybe 7 degrees of extra, of increased temperature. So they are a good thing. There's a Polaris in the pool. That's an automatic pool sweep, and I'll show you the pump for that and how that's timed. But I have that running every day for about, for a couple of hours, and it will sweep up and suck up all the leaves and debris at the bottom of the pool. And those things that don't get sucked up, that stay on the surface, will eventually come into the skimmer basket here. So on a regular basis, you should reach into the skimmer basket and pull it out. Oh, and then, empty this out. Make sure, by the way, when you dump it in the garbage, to hold on to this little bracket, because that'll fall out for sure into the garbage can and you'll have a hard time getting it out. But just take it to the garbage, shake it out, drop it back in, and again, this is where I keep the thermometer. Drop the thermometer in, place the cover on, and good to go. So now we're back in the pool equipment area, and just a couple of random thoughts. First, so the large device, the big black dome, is the pool filter, and it runs on something called diatomaceous earth. DE is what they call it. I used to service the filter myself, and then I decided after doing it a few times it was better to let somebody else do that. So the same company that will do the chemicals will also, for an additional price, come by once a year or whenever you want them to do it, and they'll do basic pool maintenance. They'll take the filter apart, take the O-ring out, clean it, make sure it has, it's properly greased, and put it back in. And of course they clean the DE cartridges when they do that. So they'll check everything out. They'll check out your solar panels. They will do what I just described, and that's typically maybe $150, and you can do that either at the beginning or end of the pool season, but it's definitely a good idea to do it. You could use, I believe you can use the company that does the chemicals, or you can use our pool contractor, Dane Lum. Will provide you with his contact information as well. So really the most important things to know about the operation of the equipment are the control panels for each. So this is the control panel for the filter and main pump, and this is the control panel for the Polaris pool suite. And one thing you have to remember, the Polaris can never be running when this is not running. The main pump can run without the Polaris. The Polaris cannot ever run without this pump going, without the filter and the main pump going as well. If you run this without running this, you'll probably burn out the Polaris motor down here. So then looking inside the boxes, you can see that there's a timer for each, and you have these little set points. You'll probably need a screwdriver, a pair of pliers to loosen them and tighten them, but you can move them around to whatever time you feel appropriate. Just remember though that the Polaris should be turning on and off within the time that this device is running. Now, during the winter time, whenever the pool's not in use, for energy conservation, I run both of these early. I start this one at, let's see, it's about 5 in the morning, and it turns off at about 9. And the Polaris runs from about 7 until 8:30 in the morning. That's the most energy-saving time to do it. On the other hand, during the summertime, when you're running the solar panels, you want to run this midday, because that's when the solar panels are at their warmest, assuming you want to use them. And so you need to strike while the iron's hot. You need to use the solar panels after the sun's been beating on them for several hours. So I haven't done it yet, but within the next day or two, I will probably set the main pump to start running at about noon, after the solar panels have been baking for a few hours, and I'll have this start shortly afterwards. And by the way, I'll describe this, I think, in my instructions, but one thing to note, if we have a power outage and the time is off, and you need to, so here it says time, and you can see it's kind of accurate, but you can pull this dial out and rotate it. That's how you reset the time. You have to pull it out. If you just try cranking on it, it's not going to go anywhere. Pull it toward you and move it to adjust the time.